This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded September 7th, 2016. Episode 314. An interview with Josh Lifton.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
And I'm Josh Lifton from Crowd Supply.
Welcome, Josh. Where are you calling in from?
I'm sitting in a small windowless room filled with...
Are you tied up right now? Or
No, I am in a chair.
Okay.
And I did drag the chair menacingly across the floor to sit in it.
Be an entrepreneur, they said. It's so glamorous,
yes.
They said.
And now I'm surrounded by cardboard boxes.
Right.
Yes. No, I'm in the warehouse portion of the Crowd Supply headquarters office in Portland, Oregon.
Nice. That's great.
Tell us all about Crowd Supply, because that's your main thing, right? We'll get into some other stuff you do, but that's your day job.
Yeah. So Crowd Supply is a product launch platform for open hardware, mostly. We've been around for about 3.5 years. At its core is a crowdfunding piece of it. It's very similar to Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but we only do products. And I'd say 90% of what we do is open in some way or another. And then we do all these services around it. So it's very curated and we help the projects along once we decide to work with them. So we do fulfillment. That's why I'm sitting in a warehouse. Mm-hmm. We do marketing. We actually sell the products afterward. The warehouse I'm sitting in right now is actually products that we've bought and continue to sell because they succeeded. As opposed to the ones that we ship for creators for crowdfunding.
Oh, so it goes past like the event horizon of delivery, huh?
Yes. Yeah. The event horizon, delivery is the beginning for us.
Okay.
So,
That's it. I didn't actually realize that. That's really great.
Yeah.
So, and does everybody choose to do that, or how does that work? Because I mean, Dave, I'm sure Dave's going to talk about his experience with this stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Almost everyone does. We essentially become their first reseller.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
And almost everyone chooses to have us fulfill their pledges as well. Because it's, we have all the order information. We don't need to ask anybody anything. We just send it out. There's shipping confirmations, order confirmations, etc. And then there's customer support all around that. So returns and things like that we deal with as well.
Oh, wow.
See, I wouldn't have realized that looking at your Crowd Supply website. It's like you go on there and it looks like Kickstarter. It looks like Indiegogo. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, even if I go into browse, it still looks like you're not kind of selling the product. It's
right.
Is that something deliberate or?
Somewhat. I mean, when we launched Kickstarter and Indiegogo, were already well known among most of the crowd that we're interested in. So that we had to follow suit in some ways, and honestly, they did a lot of things right. We launched not because we were bringing anything new to the user experience on the website necessarily, although there's some of that. But really because, we're product designers and engineers ourselves, and we saw that this looming disaster of non-delivery.
We've never
seen this?
That on the Amp Hour, have we?
I don't know. We'll go back through the archives. We'll get our intern on it.
So the thing we're most proud of and most sticklers about is creators shipping product to their customers. And so far 100% of our creators have, or they're on track to do so.
100%, every one of them.
Yep. Every single one.
You haven't had a single failure.
Nope. Well,
people have
failed to raise money.
Oh, right. Of course. Once they raise the money, they've all delivered. Is that because you vet them better? Or because you help them out afterwards, or a combination of both?
It's exactly those two things, right? It's a two-sided coin, right? Uh-huh. There's the selection process, which is very much like a mini investor or angel sort of vetting process. In fact, I think we do more vetting than a lot of angels do.
That's a bold claim, huh?
So how do you do that? How do you go through the process?
Yes, so that's kind of part of our secret sauce. Happy to talk about it, of course, but there's vetting on one side, and we say no to a whole lot of people. I'd say over 90%.
90%.
Probably.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And that's actually going down now, thankfully, because I think creators are realizing what they need to come to us with. But it's still a huge, vast majority.
So would you have people that got rejected and then went away and then came back and got their act together and then
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And when we say no, we give reasons, right? And we give suggestions like, this won't work because of this, and you should try this instead. And if you do want to do that, come back to us and we can talk about it. There are people who do come back, and we love to see that, right? I mean, that shows a lot of gumption, and we like working with people like that.
Why don't you advertise this stuff on your website, or if I just not found it? It's like I would plaster 100%, completion rate. Take that Kickstarter. Like I'd be.
You and my board have a lot in common.
For a site about promotion, your self-promotion might need a little work, I gotta say.
Yeah. Right. So we do try to do that. We like to keep it focused on the actual projects, and honestly, projects, it's a social network, right? You see a project that was successful, you respect that project or that creator, and then when it's time for you to have your turn being the creator, you'll come to us, right? And that's mostly where we get. It's a lot of word of mouth. So
you guys
actual advertising.
You do put it on the site though too. I clicked over to Dave. You got to go to the launch page. That's what it really is.
Launch
page. It's there.
Okay.
It's just not the front page.
Well, on the front page, I think it compares us directly to.
Yeah, but that's about funding. That's about funding. But.
Yeah, because from the front page, I would not notice anything different. I'd just go, oh, yawn. It's another crowdfunding site.
Well, I will take that to heart.
Yeah.
Expect it to be changed soon.
Excellent.
All right. Feedback. Nice.
Yeah.
User testing on the
looking for it. Yeah.
So what are the nature of the projects? I mean, some of the people, I'm guessing, will know, like Bunny's project was on there, but is it just the big stuff like that, or give us kind of like an idea?
Yeah. I mean, we've done everything from a couple $100, right? Funds raised to... close to $1 million, and we'll probably break the $1 million mark, hopefully sometime soon. We have a couple projects in the pipe that might do that, but we're thrilled to sell things that are just like $15, but we also sell things that are $5,000. So it's really a pretty broad spectrum. I think that the commonalities are that there's a community behind it, right? That it's some sort of you're enabling that community in some way, and that it's actually a new cutting edge thing, right? And you could say that about a lot of different products. What you won't see is, repackaged knockoffs and things like that.
I see. Right. Someone just like doing a drop ship type silliness.
Yeah. We're not that interested in that.
Wait, does this mean that you catch all of the bogus stuff too? Like you catch all the stuff that Dave likes ranting about?
You should see my
free energy campaigns and the
I've had a free energy guy, had several conversations with him,
which is unwinnable, which is completely unwinnable.
It is, but I love talking to them.
Oh yeah, they're fun.
Where do you come from?
Yeah, right. What happened to you? Why are you like this? So we see that a lot. I mean, I was joking today that we should start a question of the week or question of the month sort of feature where we post the most outlandish question that our creators get from the general populace. This month is about.
I was gonna say, do you have samples for us? Because
this month I don't have the exact wording, but it was clearly somebody who kind of strung some words together. English wasn't their first language, but they still it was coherent. It was talking about how do you bump electrons out of like the inner shell of an atom. It had nothing to do with this project. It was for the Novena campaign, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like they'd just gotten out of like high school chemistry class and they were
I have no idea.
I know this, man.
Right.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So going back to what you were asking about earlier, though, there's the two sides. There's the vetting, and then there's what we do to actually help you once we do work with you. And most people we work with, it's their, they've not launched more than a handful of products, and this is usually their first campaign, actually, crowdfunding campaign. Mm-hmm. And so ideally, and usually they're experts, deep domain experts in whatever it is that they're making, but most likely they don't have the expertise of the logistics side of things, or the marketing side of things, or the sales side of, the other pieces you need to actually launch a product no matter what it is.
I didn't hear manufacturing there, by the way.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, because that is a very big question. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a separate topic. Mm-hmm. So we bring our experience to bear on those. We've launched several hundred campaigns, and we have witnessed many others, and so that experience is I think adds to the success of our creators.
That's good. So how many partake in that? I mean, like, are a lot of people asking for help with the marketing, or are they kind of doing it themselves? And then do you turn around and say, we should really, picture, I don't know.
Right. Right. So we do, we can do the whole gamut. We prefer to do just the bits and pieces that you need help with. Mm-hmm. And so there are people who come and really all they want is the fulfillment. Like, that's their biggest worry. Right.
Yep.
Then there are people who their biggest worry is just the marketing. And then there are people who their biggest worry is making the video, or the photography, or the text, right? And so those are the big three. And we always glance over all of those things, as well as the manufacturing plan. A lot of people come to us with manufacturing concerns. And in that case, we don't do manufacturing, and we stay out of that for a reason. Mm-hmm.
Because
we don't want to be. Well, it's hard, right? It's
exactly.
hard, and if you go into manufacturing, you can only manufacture a very tiny sliver of the products that are out there, right? You're not going to manufacture everything under the sun, and so we want to keep our range of products diverse enough, or more, as diverse as it is now. So.
You mentioned photography in there. I'm just having a look at your site. Sorry for the aside. All of it looks very consistent. All these different projects, the photos are very consistent quality and look and feel.
Yeah,
that is deliberate, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. Hannah and Scott do a lot of work.
Right.
to
Okay.
make that the case.
What you would ship them a prototype, and and you guys will photograph it, and okay, that's how you get it looking consistent. Got it.
Yeah, and we'll just push back. We're like, we have a style guide, right? And it's there for a reason. And if you send us, really crummy pictures, we're going to say this isn't good enough.
Shot on your cell phone, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is your grandmother holding that? It's weird.
Right. Yeah. So, and you're right. That really does matter. The visual aspect of it. You can't hold it and feel it typically, so you have to look at it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does everyone have a video on there, or can you do without it?
We always require a video,
right?
And even if it's just essentially an animated slideshow, right? And that can be really effective.
Yep.
If it's a good one, you wouldn't ever think of it as that. But it might just be that.
So will you guys shoot do a voiceover type thing to keep that consistent too, or?
We will make videos, and we've gotten it down to an art. I mean, we've gone from concept to completely done and published in 5 hours.
Nice.
Or less even.
Yep.
And the way we do that, you have to. Voiceovers aren't part of that, first of all, because that's hard. As you know, audio equipment is hard, and the right voice actor, and you don't want the same actor for all the products. And so
people can rent our voices for $1,000 an hour. It's
awesome.
Super simple. It's just not cheap,
Right.
Yeah.
People rent my voice. I'd have to charge them to take it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Why?
So we have a formula that works pretty well, and it's always around just showing the product, right? There's none of this fluff about
story.
Yeah. I mean, the story is important, but it should be about the product.
If it's unique, if it's a unique story, that's good. Like Shapers. Did you see the Shaper release that happened a couple weeks ago?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so that's a tool that was released, but it was really nicely done. It was very professionally done video, but that probably cost them thousands and thousands of dollars, right? And that was pro. There was people involved, and there was actual storytelling there.
Yeah.
Versus breakout board or whatever is being sold.
Yep.
That. Yeah, it's just a scale difference. So
right. Right. And anyway, honestly, the story you're trying to tell and who you're telling it to matters, right? So technical products to technical people have different requirements in the video than
That's true. Yes.
something else. Yeah.
Hang on, I've got a complaint.
Oh, good.
No.
I'm looking through the
Dave
website.
Jones?
I'm looking through the Snickerdoodle. Actually, I just happened to pick a random project, the Snickerdoodle,
Yep.
and you've got one of my thing I hate as featured in, and then you plaster make PC World Hackaday Electoral.
Right.
No, it just bugs me mainly because we've discussed this on
Dave's
this
not
show
on
before.
There. That's what it's.
Actually, he is on there.
Am I?
Yeah,
Maybe?
not in that particular one, maybe. But
you
you
in
are.
general.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, because it often, especially on Indiegogo, where they have these scam campaigns campaigns that'll never work. That's one of the big things they plaster as featured in PC World
Absolutely.
or something, and it's like, it's almost
It's a measure of PR, right?
Scammers,
Then-
it's like a, Sorry,
So
it's
I
just
couldn't agree with you more.
I
honestly,
can't help associate that with scam projects because I've debunked
Yes.
so many scam projects.
I completely agree with you, and I wish.
But it works though, right?
Well, I actually don't think it has much of an effect on consumers, right? I think that consumers, most people are like, I don't care. I just want to see what it is.
Right.
Right.
Or they came from that site and they're like,
exactly.
I know. Right.
Right. What it really has an effect on is the creator side. Right. And to be honest, that most creators are not savvy marketers, and part of that is one of the corollaries of that is just that there's this very simplistic belief that about how marketing works, and that it's magic and it doesn't require a lot of hard work. When in fact none of those things are true. I mean, marketing is the same as it's been for thousands of years. Crowdfunding is not new marketing; it's a new way to mitigate risk.
Yep.
The marketing is the same, right? Like you have to tell a story to the right people at the right time. And
the way I say it is, there's nothing harder than getting people to give a crap on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah.
As my job dictates sometimes. It sucks.
Yep. Yeah. And I wish that people came from a more informed position. And frankly, I didn't know about this until I learned the hard way through Crowd Supply. So I'm not surprised that people don't know about it.
So circling back to the manufacturing real quick. So, I mean, you have 100% success rate. Aside from vetting, like how is it success rate or is it on-time delivery as well? How does that play out?
Right. So on-time delivery, there are three kind of stages, right, or quantum leaps in what makes a successful project, or maybe four even. There's, did you get the money, right?
Yep.
Which is kind of what everyone's used to thinking and is not success by any means whatsoever, I think. Then there's, did you deliver the product? When that's what we're talking about, the 100% success rate. Did you ship a product to the people who bought it from you? And then there's the more nuanced version of that, which you just mentioned, and that on-time delivery. And not all of our projects are on time, right? And that's just how manufacturing new products goes. I will say that they're much more on time than other projects. But by no means are they all on time.
And you haven't had any flat out, we couldn't do this.
No, right.
Have you had any money returns or anything?
I'm surprised about because people still have to get it manufactured. So there's all the manufacturing problems. So there could be a hang up in manufacturing, but also the fact that it can physically deliver what they 100% of what they claim.
Yeah. Now there's a small portion of some projects that end up giving a refund, and it's to a very small number of backers, right? Okay. And usually that's because a SKU was cut.
Yep.
Because it just didn't make sense to make one or two of these things, right?
Oh, okay. But still, that's not like we couldn't do anything, so here's all your money back.
Right. No,
that is a genuine fire. That's genuine, not
if all the money went back, you mean?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's it. I consider that to be part of delivery. Like you just have to give everyone either their money back or their product, preferably their product. And if it's below 95% or something of people getting their product, then that maybe that wouldn't be good. But you'd be surprised. I mean, we've had a couple projects had horrendous delays, and I was really worried about it. And there's only so much we can do. But honestly, just talking to them, talking to the creators and telling, reassuring them, like just telling them, listen, just talk to your audience, talk to the people who are backing you and explain what's happening, and be surprised what comes out of the woodwork. And sure enough, a lot of times the solution doesn't come from the creator, him or herself, but from one of their backers.
Oh, that's great.
Which is interesting.
Huh.
So there's that level of success. And then there's ultimately what I think a lot of entrepreneurs, not all of them, but a lot of them consider success is how much money did I actually walk away with at the end of the day, once everything is said and done.
Yeah.
So do you have any data on that? Do the creators feedback saying, oh, look, I made 30% profit? Did they?
We don't have, I don't have data to that specificity, but there are people who are still making their products, years later.
Right. So
they
must be making
companies
money.
and
they're at least breaking even, right?
They're certainly making money,
Yeah.
and we're still buying them, and other people are still buying them, and they've used Crowd Supply as a stepping stone successfully to go off and become a bigger company, and that's great.
Yeah.
Now, I'm interested in the logistics side of things.
As we talked about last time, Dave is in the throes of this right now.
Yes, I'm just setting up Amazon and international Amazon accounts and fulfillment by Amazon, and it's kind of sort of working. Anyway,
we should talk.
Yeah. Now you do mention, like, I presume the majority of customers are in the US for you, and you do sort of mention like international as like an aside, but for me, someone who's been shipping stuff for 20, I've been selling kits and stuff for 20 years. I sell into 160 different countries.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that is normal. That seems normal. And have you found that's normal for your backers? Because I'd be surprised if it's not.
Right. So I have to run the numbers, but we might actually have more international backers now than U.S. backers per project. And certainly for some projects, it is more, right? So for example, the Lime SDR, which funded earlier this summer, has a couple thousand backers, and only like 43%, I think, were from the U.S.
Right.
And that distribution is pretty predictable and pretty consistent along those types of projects. Similarly, I think that this year, it's right around half of our creators who've launched projects are from outside the United States.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great. That's great.
So the international audience is really important to us. And, we try our best to, we have a pretty smooth, customs mitigation process. We put the triplicate invoice on the outside and know which countries to do different things for and whatnot.
So which shipping carriers are you using? Sorry, I'm getting very specific now. I'm nerding out over fulfillment.
Sure. We use, regularly we use UPS and USPS. Now, as you may or may not know, USPS to international is a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
For certain products, UPS is okay, but really DHL is the only way to do certain things to certain countries.
Yeah.
And then FedEx is something we also use. But I'd say the bulk of what we ship is USPS.
And this is all, I think I got my, so I ordered Bunny's book, the Guide to Shenzhen.
Yeah.
And that was USPS, I believe, and showed up fine. It was in good shape and really fast, too. It was like that day it said, it was like a day before it said it was going to get there or something. So that was nice.
Yeah, so those were shipped media mail within the U.S.
Oh, nice. So it saved even money then, too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's that reduced rate.
Yep.
Cool. That's great. Well, Dave, we'll continue to geek out if we don't switch topics. So
there's tons of stuff to geek out on fulfillment and logistics. It's a crazy,
I guess
dark world.
You said before that majority of the creators probably want the fulfillment.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, because they deem that, because manufacturing's pretty relatively.
Don't say easy.
Don't
you dare say easy.
Hey, when I was a boy,
son of a gun, don't you dare say easy, Mister.
Easier.
When's the last time you?
Can I say easier?
Nope.
Why?
I think you can say they both suck a lot, but I don't think you should compare them at all.
One sucks less than the other. Okay.
No, one does not suck less than the other. I think it's just they have their own unique challenges. They're both delicate, stinky flowers. How about that?
So how does it work? If some creator gets their project approved, they go on there, it gets funding, they organise the manufacture, and then they bulk ship it to you guys in the US, and then...
Yep.
So what happens if you're, they're obviously most 95%, I'm sure, will be getting made in China probably, right? So they've got to ship it from, no?
That's not true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We, and it's not something we're pushing necessarily, but we found that for the first batch, right? And you got to remember, this is the first batch of a brand new product. It's not something that you've done 10 times before. But for the first batch, it's almost always better to do it somewhere
local
where you can just walk down the street and see it, right? Because there are going to be problems, like you said. Now that said, we've had creators in India, for example, the Snap VCC product I love.
That's that one that goes like on top of a 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
Okay.
And outputs 3.3 and 5 volts. Really nicely designed. That creator is in India. He actually went to Hong Kong and Shenzhen and visited Seed Studio and was on site for the manufacturing. Now, he didn't have to do that, but he wanted to. It was like a vacation for him, right?
Right.
And tourism, sort of. But there are many other cases where people have come to us. They've wanted our help in finding manufacturers close to us, so that it could be all efficient, and our shipping center is right here. And in the end, they do it locally and then just ship to us so they can oversee the manufacturing. And I think that's probably the better way to go.
Right, because the low volume stuff's always such a shit show of like costs and everything anyways. Like you're probably gonna you need to put that into your price in the first place to make sure that you're making enough money based on those low volume quotes. Yeah. And
usually it makes a lot of sense to basically break even on your first batch, do it the expensive way to validate the market, and then use the expense that you didn't, or the efficiencies that you didn't take, and that's your margin once you go to volume, right?
Although it depends on the product. If you can make money, you certainly should shoot for that, because people will probably pay more than you think, especially if it's a niche product that nothing else is available. If it's just yet another Arduino shield, it's like yawn, right?
And that's, we give the same exact advice. Like, if you're competitive on price, then crowdfunding is not for you.
Yes. Right. So that'd almost be like an instant turn down if that would be a big red.
It would be a red flag.
It'd be a red flag,
and we would address that right away. We would tell them, and a lot of people are very happy to hear that. They're like,
I didn't know.
Thank God. I'm so glad I can. And then they start thinking about the luxury market, and we love that. We love to see a nice spectrum or a nice distribution of pricing from $5 or whatever it is to several hundred or several $1,000s, and if you're actually providing value in that, then chances are somebody's going to buy each one of those, right? And we've seen that.
That's good. Do you vet them based on their price? So do you have like a guideline on price, or
no?
Okay, so
there are all these like marketing, there are endless marketing tutorials about crowdfunding that tell you that $36 and is the right price, right? And like, what does that mean?
Right.
But surely you would have some sort of sniff test going like, this is, we're going to charge $1,000 for it, and you'd go, come on, right?
And absolutely. I mean, if it's, it doesn't. We have a lot of experience built up for that sniff test exactly.
Right.
What's the value here?
Yep. Would you find that the majority of your products are just like bare board, like kind of things, or are they what percentage would be like highly polished in beautiful custom cases?
Enclosed and stuff,
there are a lot of people who come to us with assembled PCBs. And they just lack the experience or knowledge of how to make a nice enclosure. And that's one of the places where we're pretty good at connecting people with custom enclosure people.
And that'd be much lower risk too. In terms
the enclosure part?
No, in terms of actually delivering the product, because the electronics works, the firmware works, everything's like all it just needs is a spunky case.
Yep.
Yeah, and manufacturing's easy, right, Dave?
That's right.
Especially in plastic injection molding, I'm sure it's super easy. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had stuff in plastic injection molded, but it's the small minority.
Right.
Usually, it's a CNC thing or something else.
Because it's low volume, and CNC makes sense at low volume, and you charge it a premium price because it's niche and
Right. It's probably it might be a nice material. The classic example of this is the Novena heirloom, right? The heirloom, Bunny wasn't planning on doing that originally, and we were worried. We hadn't seen his final enclosure yet. I mean, I think it turned out really, really well, but we wanted a really nice enclosure, and so connected Bunny with Kurt Mottweiler, who did that, and he made each one by hand, but like that's an extreme version, but an example I point to a lot. People are willing to.
Josh, why is everything on your site in wood enclosures? That's weird.
Yes. Now you know.
Right. So people don't know that's Bunny's open source laptop.
Yes.
Thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is shipped or no? It's already out?
Yes. No, it's completely shipped. Yeah.
I have not. I've seen Bunny's version. I never saw. I haven't seen the produced ones in the wild though yet.
So do you know if that's still selling afterwards, or has the hype died down? And
well, we actually took over that product line.
Oh wow!
Right.
Yeah. We bought him out of a bunch of inventory, and we're not selling the assembled desktop and laptop kits anymore, but we're selling almost everything you need to make your own, right? From piecemeal.
Cool. Kind of like how drone sites kind of work, right? Where it's like you can buy the propellers and whatever, and piece it together yourself.
Right. So if you need the EDP cable or the LCD screen or whatever,
that's great.
The bezel.
So
that's go ahead.
Sorry, no, continue because I want to switch back.
Well, and there's a couple other examples of that where a product was successful, it delivered, people were happy with it, but the creators, didn't have the time or the motivation to continue the product, and so we've taken it on, and it's still their product, but we're basically running the supply chain now.
Oh, and how's that going?
It's going well. I mean, we only do that for products for which it makes sense, and it's usually really obvious which ones those are. So, Novena is one. The Snap VCC is a good example.
And so, when you say managing supply chain, are you guys actually doing all the part swaps and stuff like that as things go obsolete, or how does that work? Or is it just like cash flow? Like we pay the POs and they ship it directly to us? It's mostly cash flow, right? Okay. It's like, yes, we ordered another batch of 500 from Seed or from whoever else. Yeah. And then do you give the creators a cut after that fact? Yeah. We usually enter an agreement where it's like we'll pay for every one of these that's made, we'll give you a flat cut. And we'll manage everything else. No, that's a good deal because I mean, like you said, a lot of the creators that are doing that are kind of onto the next thing or whatever. Right. So that's good for the market. Yeah.
Back to logistics.
You wanted to switch back to something?
Back to logistics.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So hard.
Units that don't make it there, units that are returned. What's your rate on that? What's your percentage rate of returns? Do you factor that into your pricing and all that sort of jazz?
I don't have that number. Hannah might. She's our warehouse manager. But we go to pretty extreme lengths to try to get things to people. We've reshipped things several times, and
I was going to ask, what is your policy there? If somebody complains, I didn't get it, and the tracking says that they did get it, do you just go, bugger it, it's part of our cost, we'll just ship them another one? Is that
no?
Okay.
we make them pay for the shipping it again.
another heirloom laptop.
Yeah. So oftentimes we get it back, and then they just have to pay for the shipping. Right.
Okay.
And a lot of times, it's just they didn't check. It was held in customs or something. They didn't check.
That's common,
so,
especially in Germany and other European.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Got it.
So you had mentioned hype before, right? So you said the hype had died down on these parts or on these some of these things, but they're still viable as cash flow producing things.
Yep.
What about the hype on crowdfunding in general? I mean, how are you seeing the whole marketplace change? Because it's been going for a while now. So what's your thing?
Yeah, totally. Well, I hope that the word crowdfunding just disappears. I think it's
Right.
a misnomer, right? There is no crowd out there waiting to give you money.
Okay, what would you call it instead then? We can start it right now. We can name the episode whatever you call it.
Right.
All right, brainstorm session.
Right.
Well, it's kind of in your name, though.
It is, right. And it's not kind of, it's very much in our name. So yeah, I think for good reason, people have become disillusioned with crowdfunding in general. There's if you follow the media hype cycle, there was, oh, this is so great, and look at all these awesome products and innovation, and you don't have to take VC money, and anybody can do this. It's very democratizing. And now it's just like, oh, look who stole your money.
Yeah. Which is why you need to take my advice and advertise this on the front page of your website, that we're different because blah.
Yes. And that's something, honestly, a lot of creators come to us, exactly for that reason. They're like, I don't want to be associated with all these scams and like low quality projects and frauds and things like that. And I wouldn't have considered crowdfunding otherwise. So I think that creators especially have, consumers, unfortunately, there will always be another round of consumers that will just buy whatever you put in front of them.
Yep.
Right. Creators though remember, and they're very particular about protecting their brand, or they should be anyway. The good ones are, protecting their brand and making sure that they're associating with other products and brands that are of the same caliber. And that I definitely have seen a change in the last couple of years in that. On the marketing side, there are plenty of journalists who just been burned so many times, writing about a project and it making them look foolish, right?
Yeah.
And therefore they just either won't cover crowdfunding at all, or they have pretty stringent requirements about you have to be funded before I'll write about you, or you have to actually deliver before I write about you. And so it's tightened up a lot, which is good, I think.
Okay.
That is a
Even
good
though
change.
it's like
I
your
like
business is kind of dependent on bigger numbers, right?
I mean, our business is built on our reputation, and that's
true. Yeah, true.
So the more people care about that, the better for us.
I'm going to come up with a name for your whatever this is. By then. It'll probably just be crowdfunding again.
I had a banking friend. I was talking with him, and he pointed out very astutely, I think, that banking is the original crowdfunding, right? Like everyone's putting their money into a single building,
right?
And then they're loaning it out to
money,
people,
right?
Exactly. And
but,
so,
they have the final say, though, right?
But then it's one person giving you the money. It's the bank giving you the money instead of the millions of people who put money in don't get a say in it. So
correct. Yeah. So we look at ourselves more as a product launch platform, right? And crowdfunding is an important piece of that.
Did you write all of the crowdfunding back end yourself, or did you use some? Yes, is the answer.
Yes.
Okay.
So the backstory here is, my co-founders and I got together.
We need to hear the founding story. Tell us.
Founding story, real quick.
Yeah.
I was at the MIT Media Lab doing my graduate degree there, and I was steeped in prototyping and making things just really quickly, and before that was commonplace. I left. I went off and did startup things. I did a bunch of different things in the meantime, and then I start seeing these projects on Kickstarter. This thing called Kickstarter, right? And one of them caught my eye. I was like, wait a second. These guys are from the MIT Media Lab, first of all, and I know exactly what they did, right? They cast some acrylic, and they told a story around it, right? Which is classic Media Lab lore. And there were no electronics inside. There was no firmware written. There was no software written.
So
on
it
the
was
back end.
vaporware. It was just was right.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't, right? I mean,
They had the idea and they had something that looked good, but it didn't do anything.
well, they probably had like a benchtop version that worked, and you could show a demo of, right? But the thing they showed in the video, of course, was this really nice, shiny, translucent acrylic thing, and so then a week later, after it was for the time a runaway success. I don't remember exactly how much, but and a week later on the Media Lab mailing list, I see, hey, we're looking for a firmware developer, and then like another week later, it's like, hey, we're looking for a Internet of Things backend developer, and no. And I'm like, wait a second, I know what's going on. And at first I was kind of angry, and then I was like, wait a second, this is assuming you can actually pull off what you're promising, then great. But the way it was presented and everything it just blew me away. I was like, this is not,
because it was so high risk. Is that why it was sort of all done backwards? It was
in a way, and then Kickstarter had for us its seminal blog post of Kickstarter is not a store. They were reacting publicly to all of these claims about, well, hey, where's my thing? I didn't get it, and what happens now? And they're like, well, tough luck. And so that was really the catalyst, right, for my co-founders and I. And we looked at each other like, okay, well, we know how this works under the hood, and we've made products and our engineers, and one of my other co-founders had been running an e-commerce company for quite a while and had built that up from scratch, including the back end. And so we founded Crowd Supply. We used the back end he'd already written and licensed that from his other company to get it launched. And for that reason, we launched on March 20th after we basically started working on it, January 20th.
Nice.
And since then we've learned a ton. Crowdfunding and e-commerce are not the same thing. There are a lot of things that you want for crowdfunding and edge cases and things like that. So we burned that down, rebuilt it from scratch about 1.5 years ago, and it's been working great for us. It's very slim, very lean. We can add and remove things pretty easily.
What payment system are you using? How do people pay?
Pigeon.
What's Pigeon?
Gold. It just birds.
They fly to your house. They grab the coins.
Yeah, no, we accept pretty much any sort of payment that the creator wants to accept.
Oh, okay.
Now
it's like an aggregator of all the different payment methods, basically.
Right.
Like
so Amazon payment, PayPal, credit card direct. How does it?
So the only one that's actually integrated into our system that we don't have to do manually is credit cards.
Right.
Okay.
So we use Stripe for that.
Yep.
We use Coinbase for Bitcoin payments. We have PayPal, of course.
APIs everywhere.
Yes. And we do a lot of actual international wire transfers. We've done ACH, we've done check, we've done cash. People walk in with cash, actually.
See, I don't know this. It's not on the website. Like that sets you apart. Like all the others are like a single payment, do it our way or the highway.
Right. No, it's granted, it's more work to do it manually for all these other things, but it's totally worth it, I think.
Right.
And we'll eventually integrate some of those into our system as well.
Which is the cheapest payment method from your point of view? Which is the cheapest and best? That works the best?
Well, it depends what you mean by that.
Oh, well, but cheapest. Let's just go for the... What is the one that you pay the least margin on?
Are you counting labor or not?
Why, no, let's exclude labor.
Okay. Well, in that case, it's pretty simple. Cash. Right. But then also ACH is great.
Yeah.
ACH is automated clearinghouse. It's here in the United States only.
That's like a check, like when you put your checking account number in.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's a US thing. I don't get that.
Yeah. So US only. When we do international wires, we usually charge whatever fee our bank is going to charge us to get it to the creator. All of these have benefits and problems, so it really does come down to the labor that's more important to us.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I came up with a name. You just noticed I went quiet there for a second. No one's gonna like it though. Collective Venture. Huh?
Hey.
Huh?
Yeah, I like that.
Collective Venture.
No, all one word. Collective Venture.
Ah.
Collect a venture.
collective venture.
Collective venture.
Like collective and venture together. It's a portmanteau.
Yes.
Is
It's
the
already
.com
taken. The
name
.com's not available. I knew David asked. It's a wiki page. You need this is a category, Dave. So,
All right.
anyways, we might call the show that, just so we can. There we go. Top of Google, right there. So okay, so this is this sounds like very practical. Like all of this stuff's not like we got VC funding and we wanted to just slam as much profit as we could out of this. Like okay, so yeah, this is what I.
So the
this is refreshing.
Story of your founding is that you thought you were sick of seeing projects that weren't vetted. Is that basically
Yeah, I mean, this was early. This was like late 2012, right? We launched in early 2013. We saw the storm coming, right? And sure enough, a year later, that's what everyone was writing about. Is like, oh, where's my stuff, and and all these disasters. And
that's because you had manufacturing experience. You said, right,
and just basic engineering, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't take a lot to look at a bomb and say that's not going to work, right?
Right.
So, yeah, to your point about venture backing and kind of the standard Silicon Valley startup experience, it's definitely not that. Now we are a venture backed company, modestly so, but we've had revenue since the first month that we launched.
I was going to ask, were you making money from day one? Did it pay the rent and pizza boxes?
Well, so we've had revenue since we launched the site. We've had profitable months and even quarters, and I think we're on track to just become more that way.
Well, you have to become more that way profitable, otherwise you go down the toilet.
Yeah. So I'm all this to say, I'm very happy with how this has progressed. It's been very organic too, right? And hard won, and I think it'll also very sticky, I think, as well. So
have you ever thought about that you might get bought by somebody? Is that a plan? Is it a
Dave,
fear?
you don't just ask that. Come on, man. That's not like a cocktail party question.
Whatsoever.
We haven't even kissed yet.
I know, right?
No, so our plan is not to. We don't have a plan to get bought.
Right.
If that happens, then that's something else, right? But our plan is to make a great business doing something that we love and helping people do what they love. And I think if we stick to that, then the good things will happen, and that's what's been the case so far. Certainly we've talked to companies that have flirted with that idea. There are companies I'd be really excited about that happening with, and ones that I would just not want at all that to happen with.
Yeah.
Indiegogo.
So I'm not going to name any names.
Goodness.
But yeah, I wouldn't say that we have we have our heart set on any particular direction, except for just let's keep making awesome stuff, right? And helping people do that.
Yep. Thumbs up.
I wanted to ask about your previous experience and also some of your side projects too. Yep. So, I mean, you had mentioned some hardware before this, some startups. Like, what were some of the things that led up to this with your experience? I mean, how did you get into it?
Yeah. I spent most of my life in school, and so part of that, the last bit of that was making things, and that's very different than making products. But
like one of things, is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, like one of things, or like the one amazing thing that works this one time, right?
Yes, the thesis defense.
Yes, exactly. So there was that, and that was more about engineering and just cobbling things together. And then I went, one project that I did, which was kind of a hybrid. There's a company called Pixmob, or now they're called Pixmob. It was a friend of mine that started this company in Montreal, and it was all about LEDs, and just they were kind of an agency. They were trying to make this was 10 years ago, before LEDs were just everywhere, and
before Kanye had them all over everything. Is that the idea?
Yes. And so actually, I think that's exactly what I'm about to talk about.
All right.
So Pixmob, they had this idea. Vincent Leclerc had this idea about using people as pixels in a huge audience.
Oh, yeah, that is who I'm thinking about, like at concerts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't Flaming Lips do that a lot too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this was back in 2010, I think, maybe 2009, 2010. He called me up and he's like, "Hey, you did a bunch of sensor network stuff, and one of the projects was called Pushpin Computing, which was just blinky LEDs with processors on them, and there's a bunch of them. And he remembered I did a thing where I made them into a display, kind of ad hoc display. And he's like, "Can we do that with people?" And I was like, "Oh, that would be awesome." So I spent several months working with him and his team, kind of architecting that technology. It ended up launching. The first show, the one that I worked on, was for the reveal of the Microsoft Kinect.
Oh, cool.
Microsoft had hired Cirque du Soleil, who'd hired my friend's company, who'd hired me and obviously it was a huge show, and this was just one small part of it. It was a full Cirque du Soleil show in a huge arena with, I think, 3,000, 4,000 people in it. And so, we had them wear these tunics with LEDs embedded in them, and we lit them up. So if you're standing from above, it was like a display, and it was tons of fun. One story that I remember from that experience that really drove home the point that everything matters is each of these, I think there were 21,000 batteries, like coin cell batteries, that needed to be loaded into
oh my God.
7,000 things, right?
I feel like I'm getting carpal tunnel syndrome just thinking about that.
Yeah. And so in LA though, you can hire because
the people. Yeah.
You can just hire 30 people to load batteries for 48 hours. Right. And there are companies that will just do that. But so we had even shipping that is like a huge pallet of batteries, and shipping it in was a problem. And somewhere along the line, somebody had decided they were going to save 1 cent per battery.
Oh no! Yeah, supply chain.
And so
how many of them failed?
All of them.
Oh my God!
And so what we discovered was that the specs, while they were on paper the same, at the current draw we were at,
no.
it failed after the first use, right?
Yep.
And so it worked one time. But we had to do testing, and then there were a couple shows, and so with 24 hours to go, we discovered this, and or maybe it was 48, but we had to swap out all those batteries. We had to order new ones, have them loaded in, and thankfully it worked out. But man, it was close.
Wow.
Yeah. So that company, Pixmob, it spun out from the original company called Esky. And is now its own company. Vincent's is still leading that. And like you said, they've done all these great shows, with that technology and other technology they developed, all these concerts, all these live events. So that was one really fun thing that I did on the product side.
They blast infrared into the audience, right? Isn't that how they actually program the?
I was wondering how it works. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many.
Well, no, I'm looking at the website right now. Oh,
yep.
I can't tell you how many times I went over the calculation of how much IR it would take to do damage to your eyes.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of IR coming out of that.
And what is the number?
Thankfully, it's been long enough I don't remember. But
it's a lot though.
We're well below. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that's really good you checked into that, because some people would be like, we'll see what happens.
I mean, it was on my desk for a number of weeks, and I was staring right into it, so I wanted to be sure as well.
Right, that's good too. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Yeah. Are you still doing any work with them or no?
No. But I follow them, and they seem to be doing well. So there's that. I worked at what's now called Puppet. What was Puppet Labs for a while. That was software enterprise, open source software. And learned a lot from about startups and about companies of that size. There's another project. I was kind of a late third co-founder on a company that called Storm Pulse, which was tracking hurricanes, and that didn't make it. I was hoping that would make it to the point where we were putting our own hardware out there, but by the time I left, it was I'd only done the software side of things, and then there's a bunch of side projects that were product like, if mostly just one-off production runs of things. Yeah,
but you have a new pet project that's bigger and
yes,
and kind of game changing too for a very niche audience. It's very important though. So what is that?
So this is the Open Steno project, and this has a long history. Going back, at least 7 or more years. But stenography is what court reporters use to transcribe English text, right? If you see somebody typing madly in a courtroom, it's probably a stenographer. They're transcribing everything that's said. It's called real-time captioning also, which is kind of a different use case for the same thing. So if you're a hard of hearing student at a university, the university is required to provide you with somebody to do real-time captioning.
I was going to say, why does it need to be real-time in a courtroom? Why can't they just record it and then somebody listens to it later and transcribes it?
That does happen sometimes, but it's somewhat historical. They didn't have recording media
of course.
before, so... But for there are plenty of instances where you actually need real time, right? In a live situation where voice recognition wouldn't cut it for whatever reason, and some of those reasons wouldn't.
Aussie, maybe that's why.
Right.
Well, and even if voice recognition becomes perfect, there are still cases where you don't want to talk, right? You're in a library or you're in a quiet area or whatever it is, or you're just typing an essay. Like, I don't want to speak the essay, I want to type it. So Mirabai Knight is a stenographer. She and I became collaborators through a circuitous path, and she was really into this idea of open source stenography software. By the time I learned what that was, I was so into it also that we collaborated. I wrote the first open source stenography software, which actually was kind of game changing for a very small niche of people, like you were saying. Stenographers, there are only professional stenographers, and there are no amateur stenographers, which is kind of strange, right? Think about this. It takes roughly the same training, or there's the same virtuosity as, say, guitar playing, right? But I can go to a thrift store and buy a guitar and kind of teach myself some chords and call it a day, right?
Right. Well, and maybe you should give a scale difference too. So, like, what's the difference between stenography and just typing in terms of speed?
Yes. So the world record in stenography is 360 words a minute,
which is nuts.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy.
We're probably at what, like 80 or 90 just talking in a conversation right now, right?
I think speech is around 180.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay.
Yes,
and
it is.
to become a certified stenographer, you have to do 225 or better.
Wow.
I think Mirabai is up at like 250-ish or something.
For a comparison, the average typist is 40 words per minute.
Yes,
And,
right.
and the top person is 120 on a QWERTY.
That's right.
And you'll get crazy carpal tunnel doing that probably.
Yes,
Right.
and Dvorak is only like 10% higher.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's not much.
You're not getting. So this is the big value of stenography is. I'm proposing that using the Open Steno project's resources, namely the software, the educational materials, the community that we've built up, and now the hardware, and I'm going to be adding to that hardware soon. You can, for the same investment of switching to Dvorak, get up to speed in stenography, but not have that ceiling, right? Like, you're just not going to top out, really.
And there's a hidden benefit too, which is when you start using a stenography chording, whatever it's called, you're not like thinking that it's a regular keyboard, and then someone turned on Dvorak and you're like, what the hell?
Right. And there's a lot of ergonomic benefit, and go to openstenoproject.org, and Mirabai has written a number of extensive and well thought out articles about exactly why you'd want to do this. But the reason I'm really interested in about this is bringing stenography to an amateur audience. And yes, some of them will become professionals, and that's fine. And they can go to the schools, and they can get the nicer machines that cost thousands of dollars, and they can get the software that has all the bells and whistles. But for people like us, who I imagine you guys are similar to me in that you spend a lot of time in front of a keyboard, we would just get the added benefit of, first of all, learning something awesome and new, but then actually reducing physical strain and
getting your work done way faster.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now, granted, my coding bottleneck is not how fast I can type.
No,
right?
that's right.
And that's clear. But I think that as you remove barriers, right, that pathway from brain and thought to implementation becomes much more smooth.
Well, what if it made documentation easier, right? I mean, that's like one of the worst parts, but if you could make that faster and easier, then maybe things get documented better, right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah, there are definite benefits.
Yeah. And sonography is super interesting because it's customized to you, right? So you start with a base theory that is shared among a lot of people, but half of sonography is the phonetic theory and learning how to translate that. But then the other half is purely mnemonic, and you build that up as you become more experienced. And so your dictionary, your personal dictionary, changes over time and becomes, more efficient for you to use. And you may even branch off and have multiple dictionaries, one for coding, say in Java, and one for legal depositions, and one for video games or whatever, right? That's topical.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's overall what Sonography is, the Open Steno project. My specific side project right now is the Stenosaurus, and that is a
great name. Great name.
I do like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I had the idea for Stenosaurus for years before I actually started, and the thing that convinced me to start it was I was in the shower one day, because that's where all great ideas happen.
That's right.
And I thought of the word Stenosaurus. And I was like, oh, now that exists, I have to.
So how many projects have started because you thought of a cool name for it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're pretty close to that being done. And I've been saying that for a long time. But but we have a nice prototype. My collaborator on that, other than Mirabai, is Kurt Mottweiler, who did the Novena heirloom that we talked about previously.
I was going to say the wood paneling on this. It's a bamboo, right?
It is. Yeah.
So for people who don't know, it's a customized keyboard specifically for stenography.
Stenography. Yeah. So it is a stenotype machine, and you can use it as a regular stenotype machine.
What does that mean?
That means that you have to have some software installed. So a professional stenographer could take this and it would be a plug-in replacement. If they were using Plover, which is the software that we wrote for steno machines in general,
well, how does a regular steno machine work? Does it hook up to a PC and it converts? Yeah. So it's got a specific key layout? Is there a universal steno key layout?
It's a sound layout, Dave.
Sorry?
It's a sound layout. Everything's based on sound.
Yeah, so it's all phonetic.
The keyboard but got keys. Is there a standard?
Right.
Yeah, there's a standard layout.
There is. There's a standard layout for that.
Okay.
It's the same across all steno theories and all steno machines.
Right. So it's the QWERTY. It's the steno version of the QWERTY keyboard.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
That's right. And you are either running the open source software that we wrote as part of the Open Steno project, or you're running some, Case Catalyst or any of the proprietary things, and this is just a plug-in replacement for a standard steno machine. But it's about 5 to 10 times cheaper depending on what you're comparing against.
Is that because it's such a niche market that they're so expensive?
Yeah, that's that's mostly what it is. Yeah, we are cutting some corners. So for example, the keys and the actual switches in the keys are standard. Well, actually, they're not standard. They're custom keyboard switches, but they're not, for example, levers, which are much more expensive, right?
Right, and that's you're saying that's how the pro ones are made. Is basically
the pro ones. They usually have very customized. They don't use key switches,
right? So they have a certain feel. Is it like the old HP calculators? They're like, oh, you must have the tactile feedback,
right. So that's a big part of it. We had custom, and this was actually a Crowd Supply project. To fund this one special kind of key switch that had the right kind of feel and the right kind of non-clickiness and all that, and that you can go buy those today.
Non-clickiness. So how do you know it's registered? How can you guarantee if there's no tactile feedback?
Your eyeballs?
Well, yeah. So you're not looking at your keyboard. You're just looking at the screen and what's coming out. And having
of course,
a clickiness is totally anathema to stenographers. They want to be quiet and they don't want to strain their muscles. Yeah. So that's one of the ways we reduce cost. And you could use it just as a normal steno machine, like I said. The super cool thing, though, that is special and I think only exists in the Stenosaurus is that you can also use it, or you will be able to use it, as a plug-in replacement for a keyboard, a standard keyboard, a USB keyboard.
Yeah, so it emulates an actual output.
Yeah, and what's happening there is all the software is actually embedded in the Stenosaurus, and it's just sending out keystrokes, right?
Nice.
And granted, it's doing it quickly, but computers don't care about that.
Yep.
So,
yeah. No, that's interesting. And actually, so there's actually an interesting tool that people can use too. That's called Steno Night that you guys created.
Yep.
And you can actually try it with like a mapping to a keyboard, like to a regular QWERTY keyboard, and it's trippy as hell.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay.
So the poor man's version of a steno machine is an NK rollover keyboard, like a gaming keyboard essentially.
Right.
One where you or an N key rollover. You can mash all the keys at once and they all register. And if you can do that, then you can emulate by laying over the keyboard pads that look like a steno machine, and mapping it accordingly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what is your speed?
Yeah, well, 0. Because although
He's too deep, folks. He's too deep.
Yeah, I know exactly how these things work, but I have not trained myself on it yet.
I can imagine it would be so frustrating because people are born, they've grown up with the QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah.
And that's the only interface they know, and...
Yeah.
Well, Josh, when you were explaining this to me in person too, you said that it's one of the biggest skills is like recognizing the sound and then just kind of translating that to fingers. Versus when I hear someone, if I was transcribing what Dave is saying, I'm going to be like, hi, my name is Dave. I'm going to think hi, okay, H-I, right?
Right.
M-Y, right? We bundle words together. That's why that what's the thing where like they jumble words up and you can still kind of figure it out what it is because the brain kind of puts it into chunks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think our current way of typing is actually much more laborious mentally than what stenography will be, right? Because stenography is really, you don't have to know how to spell it. You don't need to know, I mean, there's so much you don't need, that you already know just by listening. It's all about the sound of it, right? And shortcuts.
So how does it rectify like there, and there? Like the homonyms or whatever the...
Yeah, so you can do that in a bunch of different ways. Those particular ones probably have a standard for each type of theory, and there's a handful of theories that people use, and you kind of just choose one.
Oh, okay.
But there are also there's also kind of like autocorrection, right?
right, okay.
No problems with that, at least, right?
Well, it's smart autocorrection. So, for example, if I have the word catalog, that word might translate into the same thing as cat and log, and I'm not putting any spaces in. I'm not like telling it about line breaks or anything like that. And so it will just default to the longest translation and backtrack and correct itself so it will output cat first, and then it sees I write log, and then it will backtrack and write catalog instead of just cat.
That's interesting. Would this work really well with like Chinese, since it's such like a weird phonetic, like ups and downs and stuff? Does it exist outside English? I mean, how does that work?
That's a good question. So stenography is specifically for English, but there are stenography-like systems for other languages. For example, Italian. The Italian Senate has its own version of stenography. It's been used for a long time. I'm not sure if it's hundreds of years, but it's a long time. And there's only like a few people who know it. And that's how they record their minutes.
Imagine how much dough they make.
You're right. I know there is something for Chinese and I think Vietnamese maybe, or people have been asking about it. There have been ports and new theories have come up. I know somebody was working on one for Polish, but I think you could adapt it for any human language. In Chinese, what you're talking about is the tones, right? Because the actual phonemes in Chinese, there are many fewer phonemes,
right? But then they're imposed with
right.
tonal up, tonal down, the
right,
diphthong,
right.
whatever.
Yeah. But a lot of it's just context too. So there are people working on it, and actually that's one of the benefits of the Open Center project, because it's open source. People just ask questions, and I think we've seen a proliferation of systems in other languages because of that.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's a really positive sign. I mean, and yeah. I think the nice thing about all this stuff is that at the end of the day, it's going to make things more accessible to hard of hearing and just make things better in general. So that's really good.
Yeah. I think if things go well, more and more people will be using it. Here's a funny story. I went to the National Court Reporters Association annual meeting.
Oh, what a bunch of fun stuff.
That alone is hilarious.
That's
yes, it was amazing.
There was
you must have stuck out like a sore thumb, right?
Yeah, a bit. It's a particular crowd. They were all super friendly,
of course,
and really, really encouraging of us. Ostensibly we're taking away some market share, perhaps, right, from either schools or from vendors or what have you. But they were all so excited because they all recognized that their profession was dying, and they needed fresh blood. They needed people coming in as amateurs and then moving up. So they were really excited about it. Anyway, when I was there, I got to meet some of the people that had been corresponding with over the forums and email. And
they type so much faster than you.
Oh my gosh, it's not even funny. But anyway, one guy I met, Stan Sakai, he was born out of this project, kind of, or his what he's doing now he was a pharmacy student, and decided that he wanted to learn some stenography. He found the Open Center project. He taught himself using the software. He never went to steno school, which is unheard of. It's like a 2-year program.
Is this like a university thing? What is it, dude?
It's like a certificate, right?
It's a vocational school,
right?
But it costs just as much or more actually than a university. And
probably because it's like 100% placement too, right? I mean, like because it's in demand.
The attrition rate is 90%.
Right? Yeah.
Oh wow, really?
Right.
Damn.
90%, and because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
And so people are paying $20,000, $30,000 a year to drop out.
Wow.
And it's crazy. So anyway, Stan taught himself using our software. He passed the test, got certified, and is now a professional stenographer in New York City. I was at a booth at our booth with him at the convention in New York. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got to go. I've got to go to one of my clients, and my main client is Kickstarter." And
nice.
So it all comes full circle.
That's
right.
good. That's good. That's great. Well, that's great, man. Yeah, that's so. Are you guys looking for like help on the project at all, or how do people get involved if they want to?
Yeah, so go to opencenterproject.org. Join a mailing list. You can try it with just your keyboard on your laptop, right? It's probably not N-key rollover, but if you decide you like it, then you can go out and buy like a $50 Sidewinder or whatever, any sort of gaming keyboard. And there's a book out there already. There are multiple games that have been made or are in progress. And so there's a pretty big community now and a lot of resources for teaching yourself how to do this. And if you get really serious about it, you can either buy a machine, used or new. You can support one of the open source machines that have been done through the project. And there's a couple out there already before Stenosaurus. And then hopefully the Stenosaurus will launch imminently, as I always say.
It's been imminently for a while.
Yes, it has.
You've got the perfect platform to
Right.
Yeah, it turns out I do. Yes.
Oh my god! If you were the only one that didn't deliver, though, oh man, 99.999%.
I may be the only one that doesn't launch. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Don't let that happen. That'd be bad.
Right. Yeah. so yeah, and of course we have a pre-launch page on Crowd Supply.
Cool.
As well.
Yeah, we'll link all that
okay.
stuff in for sure.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It would be really interesting too because like you think about things like VR kind of coming up and like all these new, like programming as a paradigm is like obviously everything kind of conforms to that because that's the only choice. But you start thinking about like VR, like how do you program VR? You start thinking about, well, maybe it could map to something like this or whatever. Like these alternate mappings of reality to digital interpretation, and it's like it is kind of interesting and exciting, especially if you can get that speed benefit. So
yeah. I mean, the one of the things I know Mirabai is excited about, and I am too, is just a wearable version of a steno machine, right? Where
that's interesting.
You're just drumming on your knees.
You can have it on like a big gold chain hanging around your neck, and then you can just use it as
Right.
There is a keyboard out there that does that. There's a 5-fingered keyboard where like the combinations were enough to get actual. I forget what it's called, but
it's a cordite.
Cordite. Okay, yeah. It was very odd, and it's like it was the same thing where you had to learn it, but then basically when you are walking around, when you're using your Google Glass, of course you could type to people. Yeah, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is, I know some people who use that. It's a one-handed corded keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
I think the person I know, the person I'm thinking of, got up to like 60 words a minute, and that was just blazing for a one-handed keyboard.
Wow.
This we would hope to have the same functionality, but just wearable somehow.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or portable. Yeah.
That is a great project. I love it.
Where do people find you online? You personally, because we're going to have links to everything else.
Yeah.
Are you a Twitter
I am not
aficionado? Boo.
I am not on social media.
Wow.
I'm one of those.
Got one of them, huh?
Staying living off the grid. And his real
Yeah, exactly. I'm really roughing it.
Yeah. Oh,
and his real name is
Yeah, no, I'm not on social media. You can contact me through Crowd Supply. I get I see most of the traffic. Or through the Open Steno forums. Those are the best ways to get
and
away.
and Crowd Supply is on a lot of social stuff too,
Yeah,
right?
Crowd Supply is on social media.
and we always ask, Crowd Supply hiring?
Not right now, but we might be soonish.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that too. Well, Josh, thanks so much, man. This has been a whirlwind. A lot of cool stuff here.
No, I really appreciate it. Great talking to you guys.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Catch you next time.
Take care. Bye.